Yeah, we're live. So, hey, everybody, this is Garage Geek, and I've got Donald and Colin here, and we're going to be talking about addiction. But I was hoping that Colin would start because he's actually putting out a magazine, and Donald has shown it off on his channel. And I would actually really love to hear more about this magazine. And Donald, if you want to say hi first before he starts.
Hi, everyone.
So take it away, Colin.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on this. It's nice to meet you, David. Donald, nice to talk to you live. I think maybe we did this once with Terrence a few years ago. I might have been on with you.
I think so.
So as mentioned, I do have a zine about comics. Actually, 2 zines about comics. Let's pick one out here. So,
Terrence.
Canon.
Oh, wait, I can make you big. I forgot how to do that. I haven't done this in a while. Here we go.
Okay. Hey, Terrence. Canon, this is sort of our all-purpose zine about comics. I do this with my friend Alex. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Pretty much anything that's comics related, we will talk about in here. And most of the contributors are people that I met through YouTube or Twitter back when we used to all be on there together. Sure, Donald remembers when that was falling apart. You know, I reached out to him and said, please, let's keep in touch. You know, I did that with a handful of other people too, and a bunch of people end up in here. This issue is the latest issue. Actually has an interview with Donald about his Charlton project that he's been working on, which I've really happy that he's doing. And then the other zine that we've done a couple issues of is Die With Your Mask On, which is all superheroes. Try to do it from a little bit of an odd point of view, or, you know, a different approach than maybe just the standard sort of, hey, I love Iron Man. You know, like you're trying to find other angles to get into it. Nothing wrong with the I love Iron Man, but just like to be a little different than what some of the other people put out. This is the first issue, has an interview with Rick Veitch, which I was pretty happy about. So canonzine.bigcartel.com. And we're actually working on the 3rd issue of Die With Your Mask On right now, where we've put together a list of the 100 best superhero comics of all time. And we're pretty excited about it. So hopefully that'll be done by the end of the year.
Wow. I'm just really impressed because when Donald showed that magazine, number one, I didn't know about it. And then number 2, Donald showed it and he's in it. And I was like, wow. But as he was flipping through it, I was like, this really looks professional. And you're interviewing a lot of like really interesting people. And so I think I'm going to have to contact you and get all 6 of them if I can, and the other one. So you're gonna have to give me a deal. No, but I am. I'm going to contact you about that because I think that's really, really cool that you're doing that. Okay, so if I forget, would you remind me to put that information that you just said into my description? Because I always forget that stuff. All right, so we're here to talk about addiction. So I don't know about you two. I've talked about this with Donald a little bit. We are comic addicts, and I'm not just a comic addict. I'm a book and album and everything kind of addict. I'm a collector addict, and it's like it's getting to the point where it's dangerous for a couple of reasons. So that's why we're here. We're kind of talking about this. Now, I know a lot of people think that like you could take this as a joke, right? But it's actually kind of serious. So Donald, you're the one that reached out to me and like, let's do a stream on this. So go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Well, I'm retired. I'm older, single. And comic books are like a big part of my life. I enjoy collecting them and reading them and, you know, just looking at them. And I keep a chronology of the comic books as I buy them. I scan them. And so I know, you know, what I bought, when I bought it. And looking back, like the first 6 months of the year, I bought like a little over 200 comics, but between July and November, I bought another 700. So it's like, something's got to give. I'm just, I buy beyond my budget, but within my means. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, I should be saving more money for, my golden years when I can't work anymore. But instead, I'm buying comic books, which may or may not work out. I mean, I don't ever expect to get what I paid for them out of them, but it's I can get something, and I don't know. It's just you 1% on a CD or something. It seems like it's comparable.
And then Colin, since I'm meeting you for the first time, I don't know if you have any kind of addiction, but I saw your video of your art and I didn't think that was an addiction at all. It's so beautifully displayed.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous, but who knows? Maybe you're spending so much on art. That video is amazing when you were showing off all that art. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think a lot of what Donald said I can relate to, and what you said a few minutes ago too. I have slowed down on buying art, but I definitely was going hot and heavy for a few years where I was on art websites all the time. I mean, it was really all I could think about was how, to get to the next piece. And that has cooled off. I also, with books, with, prose novels, I was a pretty serious collector for about 10 years, maybe a little longer. It didn't push the comics out, but it definitely maybe was the dominant form of my spending and my thought. But comics have always been there pretty much since I first started buying them off a spinner rack. They've never gone away. Mm-hmm. There's times when I haven't had money, and so I've had to slow down, obviously. But I can relate to what Donald's saying too. I have a lot of the same thoughts. I can't say that it worries me too much, but that's probably my lack of caring too much. I don't know. I want the comics. That's what I want, and so I don't think too much about the repercussions. But and I have slowed down on my spending. I used to own a business, and I just made more money than I do now. So my spending has proportionately shrunk to match what I do now, which I enjoy much more. But I still, yes, I'm trying to maximize my comics budget every month and get as many comics as I can, and try to go to a show. I'm like Donald. I don't expect to ever realize any sort of payoff for this stuff. I just want the comics. I want them in volume. I want as many as I can get, reading copies. I buy graphic novels by the stack. And if it sounds like I'm bragging, I'm not. There's lots of times where I think, why the hell am I doing this? Like I'll have stacks of books. I mean, right next to me are several feet worth of books just stacked that I haven't even read yet, and it's like, and yet there I am still
buying more
stuff in the mail, buying more. So
I watch eBay. I've given up buying new books. Pretty much. I'll buy like Sergio Aragonis, whatever he does, and maybe a few others. I follow creators rather than titles, but I've gone mainly completely to eBay lots, and I have, I subscribe to Charlton Romance, Charlton Love, Romance. So I get like 10 emails a day with the new listings. I'm always looking, for those great deals. Mm-hmm. And I love getting stacks, nothing like getting a big stack of comics.
Yeah. Yeah. Colin, it sounds like you've gone the healthy route, right? There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with having a bunch of extra books that you're going to read or enjoy for the future, and you're buying within your means, right? I'm gonna say I started saving every month, and I was building up my savings over like 5 or 6 months, and then I got hooked to online comic auction bidding. And within 2 months, I had blown through my savings. And I was like, what am I doing? And then I'm going to probably, I'm just going to get rid of all those comics later. Like I'm going to decide, oh, I don't want these type of comics. I want these. And, then I've wasted all this money. And like this morning, I was telling Donald this before. So I'm going through my collection and I'm like, oh, I've got all these graphic novels. I've been asking people about comics and graphic novels. And do you want them? And so I pulled this off my shelf and it's been on my shelf forever. I've never read it. And so I was like, I sat down and I knew who I was going to give this to. And I started reading it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. And now I'm like, oh, wait, now I got to buy the other 5 volumes. And so now it went from me giving someone something to me needing to buy the other 5 volumes. Now, what I did find is that my library has this on ebook. And so now I have to make a choice. Do I want to keep this because it's so good and go ahead and buy the other ones? Or do I just go ahead and give it away and just read it on the ebook, which is free from the library? So I'm struggling. Like these are the kind of stupid things that I'm doing when it comes to collecting. So I don't know. Like,
can I ask why do you want to get rid of stuff?
Oh, number one, I don't have enough space. So I have to keep my collection in the garage. And my husband has put his foot down, and he's right. He's like, I don't want that crap in the house. Now, I've actually taken over this room, and I have I've been buying vintage hardcovers, and I've been putting them in here because they're more arty. So I'm kind of getting away with it, right? But I'm slowly coming into this room as well. But in my garage, this summer, I didn't go into the garage because my air conditioner broke down. And I would spend all my time in the garage. And so I would do all my videos in there. But since I've been buying stuff, I've just been piling it in there. And I go in my garage right now and I can't even walk. Like there's stacks of crap everywhere. And I just said to myself, you know what? You got to get rid of this stuff. You got to go through it and everything has to fit on the shelves. But when you get stacks and stacks of books on the floor, how are you going to put them on the shelves, right? It's like you're playing a juggling game at that point. Like I'm going to move these here and I'm going to put those over there and it never works out. And so it's just this endless frustrating cycle. And so that's one of the reasons why I need to get rid of stuff.
I feel somewhat guilty because like an enabler because for the last few months I've been sending him eBay auctions of stuff that I knew he'd like, and so I've quit that. But it's just
the thing is, I do appreciate that though, because I've decided as a collector that I have all I've been buying all the Epic collections from Marvel. And I've been buying the DC Finest. They're great deals. And I said to myself, look, if they're in a collected edition, then you can go ahead and get rid of the single issues. Yeah. So focus more on books like Charlton where they're not in collected editions. And so that's kind of the way I've rationalized saving some space, right? So I pulled all these DC 30-cent, 40-cent books that are going to be in those DC Finest editions, and that I don't particularly like the covers anyway. And I've been, you've seen that I've been giving them away to people. And so that's one way that I think it's, I'm trying to move my collection into a different way. But, then again, it's sad that I have to take all these comic books that I've been, collecting for a while, and I just got to get rid of them because I have no space. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that. I'll run through the comments as you're if you want. First time in years I'm not placing an order for comics. Oh yeah, Larry's Library used to do a monthly show, and I used to be on it, and we would rag on him because he would have his buying list, and we would say, you got to get rid of that. Like he would have a budget, and he would always go way over his budget. It was a lot of fun. He stopped doing it though. Too many expensive. Yeah. Comic allowance. So I know Donald has an allowance. Do you have a monthly allowance?
I do. Yeah. I'm more or less hold to it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm more or less hold to it.
I usually triple it, but
yeah. I stick to my allowance within the first week of the month. And then after that, I'm like, oh, but I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And it's just kind of insane. All right, there's one more comment. Let's see. Interesting question. Curious if Donna or Colin has entered into something like that with collecting bad financial decisions to feed the addiction. I think single comic issues for the most part are bad financial decisions, right? We buy them for enjoyment.
I don't know. I mean, they're a bad financial decision in the sense that you're probably never going to make your money back. But in terms of the value for the money, I mean, I see the lots that Donald's picked up and I go, that's a good price. I mean, even sometimes when he goes, oh, this was $3 or $4 an issue more than I'd like to pay. I was like, but you might pay that much in person if you came across some of this stuff. I mean, yeah. I'm not a Charlton expert at all. My eyes have been opened by Donald's videos, and I now when I see them at a convention, I'm not tempted to jump into that pool. I collect enough shit already. Like I don't need more things to go after, but it does open your eyes to like what's out there. And he's getting good prices compared to what people have at conventions or stores,
Yeah, I think I got in at the right time with the romance because there seem to be more and more people. Like I say on Instagram, there's 10 or 15 people that just post about romance comics, and that builds a demand. But to what Terrence was saying, I'm like the opposite. I spent my whole life smoking pot and selling comics to buy pot, So I think of all the comics that I sold to buy pot. But I don't regret it at all because I lived my life the way I wanted to. I was happy for all those years. I didn't really save that much. I saved enough, I managed to take care of myself and, get a roof over my head and stuff. But, I think I've made good decisions with my collecting by and large.
That's good. So, Michael asked, do you think it's the hunting, the getting, or the having part that really drives you? I think it's all.
The hunt, really.
You like the hunt? Is that what you said?
The Same hunt? Same here.
I
and
like
the getting. I don't care about.
Oh, yeah.
You get it and you go home and you're like, okay, now I got it. Big deal. But then later when you have it, it's great.
Actually, there was another YouTuber who was discussing this, and he said that's part of the addiction process because once you get it, it's like, oh, instead of enjoying it, you move on to the next thing you need.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of problematic. And you got to recognize that and stop and say, wait, well, let me go ahead and enjoy this before I immediately get on eBay and try to find the next thing that I need.
With me, the anticipation is a big thing. Like if I'm not happy unless I've got a couple of packages coming in the mail, and I drive to work in the morning thinking, all right, I've got this package coming. It's going to be here Wednesday, something to look forward to. And when I don't have that, I feel a void, and I'm back looking at my phone. What kind of auctions do they have today? I'm mostly I try to look for
with like nothing in it once a week.
I like to look for the buy it nows. People put on there and you get it. Like sometimes people put up something great for buy it now and you just snatch it out right away. And I've gotten some really great stuff that way. So even though I can't afford it, I keep looking.
That's true. I wanted to talk about the different platforms because I find myself cycling when I tell myself no on one, and that just means that gives myself the permission to move to another one. Now, I'm going to say when I first started YouTube, I had actually made the decision to stop collecting so much. And then when I joined YouTube, I just went crazy again because YouTube is like this FOMO central. Everyone's showing, look what I bought. Look what you need to get. Look at this cool thing. And you're just like, to someone with my type of personality, it's like, crack. And so, I would do eBay and I was like, oh my God, I spent too much on eBay this month. So what do? I immediately go to a comic book auction site. So then I start doing the comic book auctions and then I start, going to local stores. And it's just this like cyclical thing where and do either of you do the comic book auction sites? I think
it's just eBay. Yeah. I stay away from Whatnot and those others. I'm like, I have too many issues with other things. I can't get into another platform.
Yeah, if you actually tried one of those, so the Whatnot is one thing, and then there's also the comic book. Like you go on to the comic book online auctions and you put bids, and before you know it, you're in the hundreds of dollars, and you're getting great books, and you're getting them for good prices, right? But then you add the shipping and everything onto it. But I mean, you are getting good deals. But the thing is, you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I can't do that. I don't have that kind of money.
I know, and
I mean, like as a personal thing, like most of my friends are old codgers who work at comic book stores, you know. So like I'll go. That's like my social thing. I'll go to the stores. You know, I go to one on Thursday and one on Friday, and you know, say hi. You know, and I don't spend a lot, but I don't like to go to a comic store and not buy anything. Right? That's you know, that's no fun, and you don't want to turn into like, oh, here comes that guy again that comes and hangs around, never buys anything. So, you know, it's like.
And don't forget your Sunday morning flea markets.
Oh, yeah, the flea markets. I can go to the flea market and not spend anything because that's like a more open thing.
But you always do. You're always sending me the books. I love it. Yeah. They're beautiful books that you buy, but yeah, that's something else you do. I don't know about you. Go ahead.
I like to get a golden age, like I try to go like one golden age a month. You know, and just because I like to build up that aspect of my collection. I don't really have I've got maybe one box that's got stuff from pre-1960. And that's, you know, kind of like my favorite box. You know, I love the stuff that was from like published before I was born. I always went, you know, even when I was a kid, you know, in the early 60s, you know, if I saw a comic that was before I was born, my eyes would get really big because back then there were no comic shops, no eBay, no nothing. And it's like, once a comic was off the stands, you know, it was gone forever, you know, and there was no chance of ever getting it, you know, unless it's, you know, amazing good luck.
Yeah. No, Colin, I don't know if you want to talk about your, you were collecting art, like you were saying, and you were going to a lot of the sites and.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I would buy from dealers, but a lot of it, I was looking at heritage auctions or Comic Link, which are just two auction sites. I was obviously looking at the very low scale stuff, not the high end, you know, Neil Adams covers, things like that. But I was sort of, you know, looking for the affordable stuff. But as far as comics go, eBay, though, I've really scaled back. I mean, a few years ago, I always had probably at least 200 items in my watch list. I was always looking for stuff, and I've really scaled that back, and I try to just be really direct if I'm looking for something very specific. And then mycomicshop.com, which Terrence really turned me on to, and I order from that probably a few times a year, but I try to make it at least a decent size when I do, just to justify the shipping, you know. And that isn't nearly as good. I miss the glory days, you know, when they were $1 a comic or whatever. Now they're, you know, $2.60 or something, but that's still a price if you want to fill in gaps. And, you know, you were talking about single issues earlier, Dave. You know, I was an early adopter of the graphic novel. Like I went to collecting for the trade before mainstream comics was doing that, you know, and, pretty much as soon as the alternative guys started collecting in books, I started buying those, and I largely abandoned single issues. But in the last few years, I have been buying single issues like crazy, and all cheap, all reader stuff, you know, like whatever esoteric thing I might be into at the moment, but also just any of the 80s Marvels or the 80s DCs that I'm interested in. And some of it is just like Donald said, just the hunt. You know, it's like I have stuff I'm always looking for. So if I'm at, like, I was just at a convention last month, a little small convention in Tacoma, Washington, and you know, I'm able to, like, I'm filling in gaps on heavy metal. Then I walk over here and this guy's got nothing but 80s DCs, and I'm just filling in gaps there. So, like, these aren't necessarily the things that are like fulfilling me the most, but they are things that I enjoy, and I look forward to the day in the future when I actually read all this stuff, like, because it's I don't worry about having stacks of these things laying around. I look at it like, hopefully I don't cash in my chips before I get to them, but I look at them as they don't go bad. They're there on a shelf. They're there in a box. Your interests always wax and wane. You never know what, there might be something you sort of bought just because it was a good deal. And then 2 years later, you come across something, you see something, and you go like, I really want to read that. And it's so nice when you have it already to go look. And I've had that happen. I've had people recommend a book to me, and then I go to my shelf. I'm like, oh, I have that book already. Pull it off, read it, So I guess I came to terms with that a long time ago, though I will admit pretty much every month I do wrestle with, do I want to buy something new ever again? Part of me just wants to buy old comic magazines, magazines about comics, which I collect pretty seriously. It's like, I don't know. There's an endless amount of stuff. I mean, I resisted buying heavy metal for many years because I knew that once I started, I would be whole hog. And I have been. I have, most of up to like 2000 at this, the 77 to 2000. And that's just over the past couple of years I put those together. But it's always nice to have something to hunt, I like to shop,
I've put up a wall, no manga, because it's like I was bipolar and I was really manic for like a long time, and I came up with this character, comic book shaman, and the way a shaman becomes a shaman is having a broad interest that's finite and acquiring all the infinite within that realm, and your mind just structures into a certain way, and you can understand. Like when I walk into a comic book convention, I look at a box sign, oh, this and this, and so like when it comes to comic books, I'm very knowledgeable. But then manga comes along, and boom, it's like everything. It's like everything I know is like I'm back to ground zero, and I have to start over again. And I don't have the patience or the money or really the interest to get into it. So that's why I've stuck with just American comics. And I know I'm missing out. I know I was working in a comic shop and I would peek at them and, wow, this stuff looks great, but I just don't allow myself to go down that hole, I went down the Charlton hole. And those books, that's another addiction. Like I got really interested in Enrique Nieto, and I said, wow, I can collect everything that he did. It was only like 39 stories, and I collected them. And David was a big encouragement with that. And I collected them. I for a long time since I started collecting comic books, well, since I got a big scanner, I got an 11x17 scanner, and I started scanning, my comics that I really liked. And when I started collecting the Charltons, naturally I would I would read them, and ones that I liked, I would scan out for no reason. I had no intention of doing anything with it other than I used to put out fanzines when I was a kid, and I used to dream about being able to present. I could talk about Mort Leave and pull out an old, vigilante comic and show an example of his work, and that was just, what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old, so now I'm, 67 years old, and I'm thinking, and I kind of have the same desires. But then I realized that I wanted to do a video about Nieto's work. And so I had all these scans and I was putting them together. I was going to do like a long form video of like all of his artwork. And then I realized, hey, this would make a book. So I found this printer that's out in your neck of the woods, Colin, and they do beautiful work, but it's very expensive. It's prohibitive. It's like crazy that anyone would ever buy any of these books, and I don't really expect them to. But I making the books was so much fun that I started in May, and the first one I put out in June, and then I've put out 9 since. December. And but just making them was addictive. I couldn't stop, and I've done all the Spanish and Latin American artists, that not all of them, but the ones that I had big collections of. And there are two anthologies that have 10 each of like a smaller amount of 10 artists' work. And I'm proud of these books. And one interesting thing, I was talking to a copyright lawyer, and I don't know whether this is true or not, well, I can believe it, but he says that you can make 48 copies of anything and not break copyright. And I don't know whether that's true or not. Someone else told me that that's sort of true, but I think Apollo said that's sort of true, but it's only if you're going to give them away. So you can't really sell them. So the only way that you can get my books is through a link that you get from me. So they're not really for sale. But if I'm really hesitant to even keep doing that, because if someone got wind of it and decided to sue me, I'd have to hire a lawyer and everything. And I can't afford to do that. So it was just for me and David, really, that I was making these books, and a few other people. I know, Colin, you bought the Nieto book. And so I'm going to sell them maybe till Christmas, and then I'm just going to stop. And I'm just,
No, I still need 2 of them.
Well,
I better hurry. And the favorite one is, I haven't even bought it yet, and that's the horror one. That was the one I've been waiting for. But
that book is great, and that's the one I'm most worried about, because I know someone's got the copyright to that. But people, I've been assured by so many people that the romance ones are public domain, but I haven't been able to get any confirmation through the website. I can't find anything. Which is encouraging. If they were copyrighted, you'd think I could find it, but then that site is not set up for ordinary people to find things. It's for ordinary people to hire a lawyer to find things.
Yeah. Okay, we have 3 comments. Let's go ahead and run through them. For some, I limit myself from collecting and reading, say, manga online or local library. Seems to keep the collecting buzz at bay. That's true. I actually started trying to read some of the newer books on my library, in my library app on my iPad, and it's an amazing experience. But I just like holding things in my hand. It's hard to break that. Yeah. And I find myself, if I have the choice to pick up a book or grab my iPad, I'm always going for the book. And then the things that I put in my queue in the library, they kind of they reach the limit, and I have to send it back unread. I don't know about that. So that reminds me of, for example, this. If I decide to read volumes 2 through 6 in the library app, will I actually do it? Because I could always grab something that I have physical. And so that's one worry I have about something like that. What do you do? Either of you use?
Well, the characters might grab you by the time you read that first book. I mean, the characters are pretty compelling, so that may, drag you on. But then you might see them at a used bookstore or something, and just go ham onto them. So it's
I don't mind buying them, especially if they're used. It's just the whole point was I'm trying to free up space, and then now I'll be buying all of them. I don't know, but they are available. I could read them for the library app. Yeah. Do either of you use your library apps?
I use my library. I go to the library and get books. I haven't used the app. I don't like to read. I don't have a tablet, so I have to use my computer or phone, which I can't. My eyes aren't good enough really to read it on the phone.
I really considered going that route recently, mostly because of, I guess, just economics, but, and I do check out comics from the library, but the problem is I'll check out a stack of books and they'll be sitting next to me and I'll think, I already own thousands of books. So I'm reading, I'm going to prioritize reading books that I didn't want to buy over books that I wanted to buy. And that just doesn't, so I do it sometimes, especially if there's a book I'm curious about, and it's a good way to try things out. And I always I do recommend it to people. Something like Usagi Yojimbo many years ago, I didn't know where to start, and I checked a couple out from the library, loved them, and then went on to buy all of the books, But so it's a good for sampling, but I don't like to use it as a substitute just because I already have plenty of things to read. Even if I stop buying, I still have years worth of stuff.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't really make much sense for me to do that. But that said, I mean, I just returned a stack of books to a library that, I think I read 1 out of 10 or something. So, but no, I don't read anything electronically. So.
Yeah, I never take more than 1 or 2 books out of the library.
Yeah, it's too tempting. It's like when you're in a store, except they're free. So you just start putting them in a pile, and then you walk out, and you go, "What am I doing with these?" Like I'm not.
I get a pile, and then I just look at them. I want this one.
I use my library app mostly for the audiobooks and going to and from work. They're wonderful. And when I'm doing my puzzles, I listen to the audiobooks. So that's what I use it for.
I can't focus on audiobooks. My mind goes somewhere else. I just cannot.
All of that. Are you at all worried about the copyright holders, or do you know? Well, so you already addressed that, right?
Yes, I am. I'm very worried about it, and I'm guilty about it. That's why I'm going to stop producing them. I just wanted these books to exist.
I want more.
I wanted David to have them. I wanted, the few people I have, a few people who've bought most of them, and they're going to be like super rare. 20 years from now, there's only going to be like 5 or 10 copies. There was most of that first Nieto. I printed 10, and that was like, it was like crazy the way I did it. I could have just, given people links and let them buy them. So I figured that out. But
yeah,
I just, if I ever had to hire a lawyer to defend myself, I haven't made, $100 off the project. It's like it's just a labor of love.
Yeah, I don't really think they. Although you do hear sometimes that they give you cease and desist, or like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. This is a long comment. Let's see what Hans says. The former Previews monthly catalog was a big contributor to feeding my comic and pop culture addiction. That catalog was my first introduction to FOMO. I'm more in control now. Yeah, that's true. I don't know about you. I don't use those anymore, but I use DCBS, and you can go through and you can just. I make a queue like everything, and it's usually about $400. And then I have to go through and delete everything and get it down to, I try to stick around 200, including tax and shipping. But what I normally do is I usually get it to 200 and then add on the tax and shipping. I don't know. Yeah.
I really enjoyed. Colin used to do videos every month on the Diamond catalog, and I really enjoyed watching that. And I bought a lot of stuff because Colin brought it to my attention.
Yeah, I really miss the Previews mostly because it was just a one-stop shop for so much of this stuff. And that's my main one. I did enjoy doing the videos, and the handful of people that watched them and commented on them were nice, but mostly it's just been frustrating since it went away because there's already books that you miss. I also use DCBS. I, have a local comic shop. I'm fairly plugged in, and yet as soon as the Previews went away, it's like there's a new Joe Sacco book coming out. Nobody knew about it because it was coming from a mainstream New York publisher, not a comic publisher. Paul Pope had a new book out. That's not any, it's like these kind of big books that normally would have had ads and previews and people would have been sharing around. Mm-hmm. You just had to run into them on Instagram or something. And it's a terrible system. And, I work for a publisher, and it's a big topic of conversation, that like, how do you get people to know about your books now? Diamond was a giant mess, but at least it was one place where everybody could go look. You didn't have to buy the catalog; you could download it and look at it. But DCBS, a lot of their stuff came from Diamond, even though they own Lunar, but a lot of their stuff came from Diamond. So you immediately miss out on so much stuff without having that clearinghouse. But that's to get to this whole entire topic. The fact that I feel the need to have a one-stop shop, and I need to have as much information as possible and know every single thing that's coming out. It's like, I went years at a time without knowing this stuff, you know, so what does it matter? But then you miss out. You miss out on books and comics. You know, sometimes if it once it goes, it's gone. You know, like now you're gonna either pay premium prices if you can find it. You know, and I don't buy collectible stuff, but I do buy things that have small print runs. You know,
but there is that magical time when you walk into a used bookstore and there it is, you know, and you get it cheap, you know. So, you know, you don't get everything, but you get some things, you know, and it's really gratifying.
It is. God bless half-price books.
Yeah. I was gonna say, especially if you're into the indie comics, like that stuff has such a low print run, and then when it's gone, like on eBay, those things go for triple and quadruple the amount. And so, for example, like I'm very late to a lot of those comics, and like I get interested by watching YouTube videos, and then I go to see if I can get a hold of some of that stuff, and it's long out of print, and you know it's not available, and that's a shame, right? And that's a real shame. Okay, another comment is there does come a time when one has to stuff off the buying and collecting train and start focusing on and enjoying what you already have. I'm not there yet, though. Yeah, I don't know if I'm there yet either, but I need to be. I just need to stick to my limit, right? And in fact, so for example, if I tell myself, oh, I'm only going to spend $200 with DCBS, but then what about the things I buy on eBay? And then what about when I go to my local comic shop? Because I go to my local comic book shop and I grab some graphic novels there and that, you know, and all that stuff, you know, adds up. You don't even really realize how much you're actually spending, you know, until the end of the month when that credit card bill comes in.
I cannot bring myself to buy graphic novels. Very rarely, like new. I mean, I just spend $30 or like those big ones that Fantagraphics are doing. I forget what they're called. The Girl is the new one.
Yeah, the Atlas stuff.
I'd love to have those, but I just, you know, it just kills me. It's like the Jim Woodring calendar. I really want. Yeah, I really want it, but I can't. You know, I can't bring myself to buy it. Yeah, you guys both have it. I'm like, I've got 400 romance comics.
Oh, you do, but
I think you're better off.
Beautiful. Those books are beautiful, actually. And I do like the single issues that we're getting of those romance comics. But the way they're presenting those books, I really think they're beautifully done. Yeah. And they're worth collecting. I have 3 of them so far, but I want all of them. I know that's see how bad I am.
Want them too, but I want that Jim Woodring calendar, the 26 calendar, but I just can't. I don't even have a place to hang it, you know. So I figure I'll wait until, you know, July or something and get it half price.
Let's see that. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, look at that!
It looks so wonderful, you know.
Yeah,
he's such a master.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know about that. I'm going to show off 2 graphic novels because I was actually talking to Sleepy about this today because Sleepy buys single issues, and I was talking to him like why I've stopped buying single issues. Number one, I would only buy single issues for the covers. I wouldn't buy full runs, and so I wouldn't be able to read them. And then you kind of have a hierarchy. You've got Marvel, DC, and then Image, and you've got some others. But when it comes to value for your dollar, Marvel is the worst. They put out graphic novels, 5 issues in one, and they seem to always skimp in some way. DC is really cool because you get 6 issues and you're paying about $18 to $20 for 6 issues. And so when you think about it, that's about $3.50 or something an issue. Whereas on the newsstand, they cost $5 to $6 each issue. Right. And DC doesn't skimp. They have these beautiful covers, cover gallery in the back, which, you know, you don't get that when you buy the single issues. Right. I mean, you just get this gorgeous. Whereas Marvel skimps, they do more like this, which I'm going to show you, which I hate. I hate when they do this. And they give you the alternate covers and they put 2 to 3 on one page. And I'm like, why do that? Well, first of all, they could have put all 4 on one page if they really wanted to. But but this is Image. Image is even better because they put 7 issues in one graphic novel, and the price for this is $17. 7 issues for $17, so you're paying like $2.50. Whereas on the newsstand, they cost about $5 to $6 each. I mean, you're really getting a good deal if you're buying these over the single issues. I don't know what that has to do with this argument, but I just think you're actually saving money over time if you're buying these. What do you think about that? I don't know.
Well, that speaks right to the issue, because really, if the comics were free, it wouldn't be an issue, except for you because you get crowded out of your garage, or me, I get crowded out of my condo.
Yeah.
But money is an issue for most of us, and it's like if I could afford to read 30 new comics a month, I wouldn't buy them. I'd buy eBay auctions,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something, I love older comics. I do, but there's something about reading some of the newer runs, especially when I'm watching YouTube videos and people are talking about, because I watch videos like Sleepy's where he goes over, newer issues, and they go, oh, this is a really great run. And I really think like DC has a really great value, and they're actually the writing and the art in the DC comics is really, really good. I've always been a huge Marvel fan, but I'm not buying the Marvel graphic novels because they only put 5 for the same price, and they're often actually more. The paper quality is thinner. They skimp when it comes to the covers. They put like 4 or 5 on a page instead of that. I mean, I don't know. Marvel kind of makes me mad. Even when you buy their issues off the rack, the paper seems thinner.
The paper is very thin. Yeah,
darker. It just like when you see the image of the new comic in something like a previews or DCBS, they look beautiful. But then when you actually I've been burned so many times. When you actually get the comic in your hand, the representation on the cover is not as good.
The paper is wavy on the cover. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't know if they fixed some of those, but Marvel has just made me mad.
I really enjoy Sleepy's videos where he talks about all the comics that he reads. I mean, I marvel at the volume that he reads. And I like Jared Osborne's, I can't hold that against him.
No, I mean, but FOMO.
Yeah, I like people who read the comics and talk about them. I like that podcast, Cavern of Chaos, with Jared and Paulo and Wilson. And yeah, I know you don't like that as old guys talking about comics, but that's what I am.
Videos, and especially when they show the art. I love when they open up the books and they show. So now they're talking to you about whether they like the story or not. And then they show off the art because, art is, really subjective. And so you might really like an art style more than someone else. And I've heard Sleepy talk about books where he didn't like the art. And I was like, oh, that looks kind of interesting to me. And so I might give it a shot. But that's the whole part. Everybody has different tastes, right?
Sleepy is so observant about the colorists and everything, It's like I might have something in the back of my mind about it, but it would really come forward that, oh, this is what I don't like about that, He's very observant.
Wow. All right.
So it makes him fun to listen to.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to add to that, Colin, before we have like 5 comments for me to catch up on.
Yeah, a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I jumped back in, tried to pick up some more single issues, mostly just to have something to get every week at the comic shop, that wasn't a book, though of course I was still buying those, but sometimes there was a week where there wasn't something, and so you'd be like, oh, maybe there's a mini series or something going on I'd be interested in. I'm not really interested in much of what Marvel or DC publish currently, but I always look to see what sort of vintage stuff they're putting out, and what format it might be in. Larry had a comment here about the omnibus. Like, I hate the omnibus format. I think they're terrible to read, but I do have some because it is the cheapest way for me to read Steve Ditko Spider-Man, so it makes sense. If you can get a nice discount on them, it's worth getting. I've gotten deals on eBay, But
it's nice to see the oversized art.
yeah. But yeah, for me, monthly issues now, the prices just don't justify it. Like, especially like a lot of these, a mainstream comic, you read it in 3 minutes and you paid $5. That's just absurd to me. If I'm going to overpay, I'd rather overpay for a trade paperback, At least it's all there in one go,
All right, David, here's some more math for you. Marvel Omni, about 80, discounted and averages maybe 30 to 40 issues. Yeah, I mean, epics have gone up. I like the epic format better. We've gone back and forth on this, Larry. You just save a lot more space. Omnis are gigantic. I know you get better size art, but honestly, there's a lot of comic runs where I don't need to see the art, but I still want to own them. Like I want to own all the Hulk issues that from when I was young. I want all of them. Do I need to see all of that art? Gigantic? No. Yeah, but the Omnis are they're big and they're heavy and they take up so much space. So we go back and forth on this, Larry. I'm in the epic camp. I love my epics. You love your Omnis. Hey, to each his own. I don't know. Well, yeah, like I do not like Omnis. I don't. And I own about 15 of them, but I don't like them.
I can't read them. My wrists can't hold them.
Yeah. I have to read them on a table.
Oh, Mr. E, so he asked, what do you guys think of Netflix buying Warner Brothers and owning DC now? The first thing I thought of was I think Warner has been putting out a lot of Blu-rays. Was it Warner Brothers? I can't remember, but they're starting to put out their back catalog of all their movies, and they're doing it very lovingly. And I'm just worried that something like this will put that to a grinding halt. And normally what they do is they just start regurgitating the stuff they've put out over and over again. And, we're finally getting into that really like deep dive into their back catalogs of all these movies being put onto Blu-ray, some for the first time. And I just wonder how for me, that was the first thing. I don't care about the DC stuff. I mean, all that stuff's available. Oh my gosh, something weird just opened up. Sorry, like a pop-up opened on my screen and covered the whole thing. That's never happened to me before. I don't know about, do either of you have any thoughts about that?
I think it's I really only care about Marvel and DC to the extent that they help keep the comics industry going. The only reason these other companies can get their stuff to comic shops is because Marvel and DC help pay the rent for those stores. Yeah. But I felt for a few years now, it's only a matter of time until some vice president looks at the books and says, we're still publishing this shit. Like, what's the point? Like they probably make no money off of it. They already own all these characters and all the stories. They can make movies and shows and video games until they're blue in the face. They don't need any more of this stuff. Yeah. And so I worry about that some corporation's just going to eventually go, we don't need this anymore. And now comic shops are losing 20% of their income,
Yeah.
What's that, Donald?
It's just topicality, like they keep putting out new stuff in case there's a new craze, that they can capitalize in a movie.
Yeah.
They make money on the comics, but not the kind of money that they care about. But there's always a chance there could be $1 billion movie to come out. So I think that's the reason they keep it going.
Also, a lot of the movies that they make are culled from famous modern comic runs. So they might realize that, hey, if we stop this, we're limiting the future of what we can make. I mean, like all the Miles Morales, they're super popular, and they all came from recent comic book runs, right? And so there's that.
So it always puts me in mind of that Frank Zappa talking about back in the 60s, the executives were these old cigar chomping guys that stuff would come in and they'd go, I don't know, this might be good, let's put it out. And then like the young people who know things come in and say, well, this will never fly. And so there's a lot of stuff that you never see because they don't take a chance on it.
Yeah. I also noted that when I was listening to NPR and they mentioned this, they were talking about how Netflix has a plan where they're only going to put movies into the theater for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I did mention this before, and that has other movie companies concerned because Netflix doesn't worry about the movie theater. They're more a streaming platform. That's their cash cow. And so if that's the model, then movie studios that are making movies, for movie's sake, they're in trouble because 2-week run for a movie. And I mean, I think they're only putting them in there so that they'll be eligible for Academy Awards or whatnot. Right.
Also, Netflix wants to get away of physical movies. They want to get rid of physical media too. So that's the end of your Blu-rays.
Yeah,
and maybe the end of your comics too.
No.
Yeah, it's also concerning, right? Because I've also talked about how I've been part of the discussion about how some media content has been altered, right? And if you own the Blu-ray or the DVD, you still have the original version of it, but they're just cutting things left and right, and they don't tell the consumer. And even when you buy it through their streaming platform, if you buy it, you don't own it. It can be taken away. And also, the cuts can be retroactive. So they can cut a movie and you've already bought it, and when you go to play it, the cuts will be there where they weren't before. It's very weird. But you know what? Most people don't care. Like, they don't want to own something. Like, they just want to watch a movie, and then, they're fine with it. And I get that too, right? Like, most people don't. Hey, let's watch something on Netflix. Okay, good. Right? It's like they don't need to own all this stuff.
The future of comics may be Kickstarter things, It could be comics could become even more niche, even more. You have to be really in the know to get, something good,
Yeah, and I've really never done Bandcamp or Kickstarter or any of those things. So in the vinyl community, Bandcamp is really, really important. A lot of bands are, they make their own records. They put out cassettes and they put out vinyl. And a lot of really good music is coming out through Bandcamp. And a lot of YouTubers are finding these things and they're promoting them and then going. And those actually have really low print runs as well, right? So once those things are sold out, but there's a lot of quality music out there. And so when you're also talking about Kickstarter, right? I don't know Kickstarter too much. So like you did the Frightful 15 for me. Like I don't go into Kickstarter and do any of that kind of stuff.
I'm only backed a few because, like I say, it's a financial thing. I would like to do more,
but also isn't a little bit sketchy. I've heard about this could be one of those rumors. I don't know where people back things and then they fall out and they don't get their money back.
It does happen. It's not that prevalent, but it does happen. And
a big disclaimer that says, hey, this is like, you're taking a chance. You
have no recourse. You have no recourse.
Oh my goodness.
I backed a Kickstarter. God, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It was for a Tim Truman graphic novel, a Scout graphic novel. And he ran into health problems and it's never materialized, and I don't know if it ever will. I'm not upset about that one because he's an older guy and he had health problems. That's, like life happens, It's more the people who raise a bunch of money and then just sort of disappear. Those are the ones I think that people should be upset about, But I've largely stopped with Kickstarters because a lot of the stuff shows up in stores eventually. And so you're basically paying extra for something that someone else is going to get cheaper just by showing up at their comic shop later. I just doing that.
More quickly. A lot of people complain about like, hey, I ordered it on Kickstarter and they're selling it at the con and I haven't got mine yet. So they're like, if I ordered it on Kickstarter, shouldn't I get mine first? Since I was the one taking a risk and backing everything. I mean, that's a valid point. And you hear about that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, yeah. People got really mad at Macroverse about that. But, but on the other hand, if you go back and read their initial thing, that they were saying that they wanted they wanted to have these things go everywhere, not just the Kickstarter. So if you paid attention to what they offered, you realize that they were going beyond just the Kickstarter audience, But people were scalpers or speculators, and they wanted to buy the stuff and flip it real fast. And then like their money would end up being tied up for a year. And then, other people got it before them. So I could see the people who bought the, $5,000 packages or whatever, it could be really pissed off. Me, it was just $150, and it didn't really bother me.
I think you should. I mean, for me, I just back people I like. If I like someone, and if there's a cartoonist I really like, then I back that, and hopefully I get it. But usually, honestly, it tends to be older cartoonists who, that's just how they put stuff out now. And but I've never had a really bad experience on Kickstarter. I will say, even stuff where I've had to wait a long time.
I haven't either.
Yeah, but I also don't do very many anymore.
No.
I don't. All right, what is this? I backed. I guess I backed. Don't bake Jacob Kirby's. I backed Jack Kirby's Kickstarter book where he showed family photos and talked about. Oh no, it is Jacob Kirby, his granddad. I think it was okay. Pricing on Kickstarter is usually kind of painful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he wrote back, not baked. Okay. Well, we're at an hour, so I don't know if any of you want to have some final thoughts about addiction. And our conversation is kind of meandered. It's gone to all different kind of interesting topics. So I don't know if either of you have any final thoughts or just want to plug what you're doing in the near future.
Well, I think it was all kind of tongue in cheek. It's something I worry about. But I'm more worried about you, David, than I do about myself. But it's I think it's a real thing. But like some people said, the best way to treat it is to buy more. That's kind of the way I'm going to take.
I know, right? That is not the best way to treat it. You got to come to some kind of control there. Yeah. Do you have anything coming up, Donald? Like, you have any plans?
Just my occasional videos. That's it.
You don't have any Charlton lots that you've won and you're waiting for them to roll?
Yeah, I've got. Well, I bought my comic shop had a Cyber Monday sale.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And I did buy a 20 romance comics, and then I turned around and bought an eBay auction of a dozen Charlton horror comics.
So good. I hope you have doubles. I hope you have doubles, because you remember I'll buy your doubles. I love those things.
Yeah.
How about you, Colin? I got to see more of your videos, actually.
Yeah, I don't make as many as I used to. Though I have been reading a bunch lately, so I may pop a few out for that. Also, I did mention one of my zines. We did a top 100 superhero comics of all time. Damien was on. He is one of the list makers. He was involved. Sleepy Reader. So we're probably going to do a bunch of videos. Probably some of the guys will come on and we'll
that's cool.
Argue about the list we already made and complain about why people's choices weren't higher, that sort of thing. But all tongue in cheek, all for fun. And yeah, it was just kind of a fun thing to do. So, but I think Damien and I have already talked that we're going to hop on maybe each other's channels and chat. That'll be kind of fun to do. So, yeah, I think that's it. But yeah, I don't know how many videos I have, but I have a certain amount up there. And
I was impressed by that one I saw. I was like, dang, I really need to pay attention to this guy more, because you really seem knowledgeable about indie artists, and it's an area that I don't know anything about. And so I dip my feet in. I learn from Donald and Sleepy mostly about these indie artists. And so when I saw your wall, it's like, oh, I have this one and this one. And I was like, I haven't even heard of half of these people. But it looked beautiful. So I do have to look at some more of your watch some more of your videos. I look forward to doing that. Well, I guess I want to say thank you both for coming on and listen to me whine, moan, and complain. So I'm going to go ahead and, unless either of you have anything else to say, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. And if you want to talk backstage for a few minutes, let's do that. So is everybody okay? I'm going to end it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.